Alright guys, most beginner anglers think that they need better gear to catch more fish. But the truth is, there's a lot of mistakes that they're making that they don't even realize that they're making. And in this video, I'm going to show you 5 rookie mistakes that could be killing your fishing. So mistake number 1 is going to be using the wrong lure for your conditions. So a lot of beginners just tie on whatever they think looks cool or whatever they saw on TikTok, or the craze right now is just using a whopper plopper or any kind of top water. So what you want to do is you want to match the conditions that you're in. So if you're in clear water, you don't want to use like something super bright like chartreuse, and you'll always catch a fish on it, you know, here and there. But if you want to maximize the amount of fish that you're catching, you definitely want to try to match the conditions. So in clear water, you want to use more natural colors, you know, the green pumpkin, the black and blues, the shad imitation, so the white, stuff like that. You know, and when you're in murky water, you want to use something that's a little bit more bright so they can see it better. When you're in really dirty water, that's when you want to use either a black and blue because it makes that nice silhouette in the water, or you want to use something that's really bright so that they can see it through, you know, whatever's in the water. So the big key is just matching the conditions that you're in, because if you're in clear water and you're throwing something that's a really bright color, right, you're not always going to get bit on that as much as you could be if you're throwing something that looks more natural, that's like what's going to be in that water. So yeah, that's mistake number 1, is always match the conditions that you're in to what bait you're using, and you'll get bit a lot more. All right, mistake number 2 is going to be reeling way too fast. And I'm actually a victim of this myself. I reel extremely fast, no matter if it's summer, if it's spring. And this leads to me losing a lot of bites that I could have had if I was fishing a lot slower. So the biggest thing is to slow down. You don't need to reel at Mach 10 speed, or whatever the saying is for that. If you have, you know, it also depends on the gear ratio of your reel. If you're using something that's 7:1 gear ratio, you're gonna have to reel it a lot slower than something that's, say, 5:4 gear ratio. So the biggest thing is just slow down, especially in spring when those bass are lethargic, just because they're not gonna be wanting to chase lures as much, so they're gonna be extremely sluggish and slow, and you're gonna want to slow down just to match them. All right, mistake number 3 is tying a bad knot. There's so many times where people will tie a knot and then they'll go to cast, and either their lure gets flung off when they cast, and then they watch their, who knows, 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 lure just go flying into the abyss. So what you want to do is make sure that you're tying good knots, and there's tons of tutorials on YouTube. You know, you can learn how to tie a Palomar knot, and that's pretty much what I use for every single application, is a Palomar knot, because it's super simple, super easy, it's extremely strong. As long as you wet down your line when you're cinching it down, you won't have any problems really breaking off. I mean, you're always going to have those times where you randomly break off, or your line gets scraped across the rocks for too long, and then you go to set the hook on a fish and then you break off. That's always going to happen no matter what knot you tie. The actual knot itself will be extremely strong, and it's not going to break off if you tie the right knot. So stop tying bad knots. Stop listening to the TikToks that give you this whole list of knots to use for different applications and all that. Go to YouTube or go to TikTok, whatever you want to do. Look up how to tie a Palomar knot, practice it, learn it, and that's the only knot that you'll ever need for pretty much anything. And it's super simple, super strong, and you'll never really have issues of breaking off on a fish. All right, mistake number 3 is never changing your retrieve. A lot of times what beginners do is they'll just go out to a body of water, right? They'll just start casting out everywhere with no clear plan, and they'll just retrieve it at the same speed every single cast, right? That's fine and all when it's in the warmer months and bass are more active, but if you're in, say, the spring when the water temps are 45 to 55 degrees, are pretty much never gonna get bit when you're just doing that same exact speed back and forth, just recasting out. You have to try to find what the fish want. So whether that's just a straight retrieve, which sometimes works depending on what speed you're doing, if you slow it down a lot and you slow roll something, or if you burn it, sometimes they want that. But you know, when you're using like a chatterbait, for example, instead of just straight retrieving it the whole time, try to give it a little twitch, try to give it a double twitch, you know, twitch it and pause it, let it sink a little bit and rest off the bottom, then pop it up and burn it so that blade, you know, vibrates really fast back and forth. Try to switch it up and see what the fish want. And then that could be the difference in you getting 1 bite versus you getting, you know, 5 to 10 bites in a matter of 5 minutes, you know? That could be the simple difference maker in your cast. So the biggest thing is to mix it up, you know, twitch it, slow it down, speed it up, try all different things, find what the bass want, and that'll lead you to getting a lot more bites on your lure. So mistake number 5 is gonna be showing up and not having a plan. There's too many times where beginners will just show up, start casting out, not thinking about anything really. Then they're like, okay, so why am I not getting bit? And I run into the same problem. You know, I show up to a body of water and I don't really think it over how I should, and that leads to me getting either less bites or no bites at all. So you need to start thinking, okay, where might the bass be? For example, you're not gonna go to the bank, right, in really shallow 1 or 2 feet of water when the temps are 40 degrees out and start throwing a glide bait and expect that you're gonna get bit, because the fish aren't even up that shallow at that point. So you kind of have to know and learn where the bass are gonna be at the time of the year, especially. And if you're in a southern state, I guess this doesn't really apply to you as much. I mean, there's still the spawning periods and whatnot, but not as much as the Northeast. So what you want to do is you kind of want to know where the fish are going to be, because if you go to, like I said earlier, 1 or 2 feet of water and you don't really see any bait fish pushed up to the edge, you're not going to find very many bass, if any at all. You know, if you go to the bank and you don't see any bait fish, it's a very slim chance that you're going to find a bass there, or whatever species you're targeting. So you're going to want to try to go to deeper water, especially if that's the case. Try throwing a variety of stuff. Throw parallel with the bank for most of it, because a lot of times most beginners will go out to a body of water and just cast straight out, you know? But what you want to do is you actually want to cast parallel with the bank, just because that's the way the fish are sitting. They're looking for bait fish to ambush. You want to cast parallel with the bank instead of just casting straight out, because they're not coming straight back towards the bank. They're working with the bank. You always want to be mindful of that and stop making that mistake. So if you guys fix even one of these things, I promise you it's gonna lead to you getting on more bass. It doesn't matter if you were doing, you know, all 5 of them. If you just change one of these things, you're guaranteed to get on more bass. Let me know if there's anything in this video that I showed or said that you were making the mistake of in the comments. Let me know how you're gonna fix it, and hopefully you guys get on more bass. I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you guys don't mind, drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you boys in the next one. Peace.